Let's look at another model here. This is a Razor scooter. Razor is actually one of our customers. You probably had one of these as a kid. So what I want to do here is actually design a new rear fender. I've already started the design process here of actually establishing where that fender is going to be created in the context of the assembly. And I've also created a sketch. You can kind of see it here in the context of the assembly. And just like I did before, I'm going to select the region and begin to drag to make it a fender, a solid. So to get the width, again, you could use the assembly to figure out how wide that needs to be. So about 40 millimeters looks like it will work fine. And so again, what we want to do is watch those dimensions as I key in 40 millimeters. You're going to see those dimensions migrate onto the 3D model. If you want to make any changes, then you select the dimension and you modify it directly on the 3D model. So right now it doesn't look very fender-like. We might want to add some rounding to it. So let's come in here and add, let's add a 15 millimeter round to each of these edges. So clean up the model here, make it a little sharper. There we go. All right, so we've made some modifications to the rounds. Now, I need to remove all this inside material here, and I'm sure there's a solid edge command to do that. I don't know what it's called, but I do know in another CAD system that's called a shell. Well, we have a thing down here at the bottom called Command Finder. You key in a command that you may know from some other CAD system like shell, and what it will do is actually look for the matching command in solid edge. Not only will it look for it, it will find it in the command finder, and when you take your cursor and you touch that command, you can see that it will actually change the tab, it will find the command, and it will highlight and show you exactly where that command lives. And in solid edge it's called thin wall. So at that point then I can run the thin wall command, and then what's the next step? Well, down at the bottom there's a prompt bar and it's telling it what it's looking for next. And in this case it's saying click on the faces to open. So I'll simply select those faces to open those up. So now it's starting to look more like a fender, yet there's no way to mount that fender. Let's go back to the assembly, and you can see that there's a bolt that's running through there. So what I can do from the assembly level is I can subtract, and there's an option in our subtract tool to recognize holes. So I select the target, which is the fender. The bolt is the tool, and it does that subtract, that Boolean subtract. And when I go back and I look at the fender, not only is it just not just a simple Boolean subtract, it's actually now an editable hole that I can come in here and I can edit that as a hole feature. And right now it's just a drilled 5.1 millimeter, but I could actually make that a general screw clearance for an M5 screw, which is really 5.3 millimeters on a close tolerance fit. And it modifies those holes for me. So now it's an actual screw clearance. So what if we want to make some modifications to our fender, maybe change the design a little bit? Because it is synchronous, we can change it from the assembly just like before. If I press Control Spacebar, I get the blue diamond. I can select individual faces. I get my editing steering wheel. I'm going to center it on the tire. I'm going to click on the torus, and I can actually begin modifying that directly at the assembly level, but modifying the part individually. What if I want the wheel to be wider? Again, I select what I want to change. If the wheel gets wider, that means the hub has to get wider, the fender has to get wider, and the cutout in the frame has to get wider. Again, we can make all those modifications at the same time by selecting the faces we want to edit from each of the different parts. So I want the tire, I want the wheel, I want the hub, I also want the face of the cutout. Once those are all in the select set, then I can just click on the arrow to begin modifying those. You can see that our design intent kicks in. It finds that it's symmetric, and I can make the tire 12 millimeters wider. Everything adjusts automatically for me. So if you're new to Solid Edge, you're learning Solid Edge, You can come in here to our online help. We have choose a learning path, and we have different ways that you can learn Solid Edge. You can assume that you're new to CAD, don't know anything about CAD. Maybe you're a SolidWorks user coming to Solid Edge. So we assume that you already know some things about CAD. We're not going to start you out at ground zero with our learning. Or you're transitioning to synchronous. You're used to ordered modeling. You're transitioning to synchronous. Again, you know things about CAD. We're going to tailor the learning experience for you to not be at ground zero and actually begin hit the ground running with Solid Edge very quickly.